Okay guys, so today we're going to talk about the basics of Google Forms. And as an instructor, there's a ton of ways that you can use this. However, we're going to start right up with digital locks, so moving just forward one by one so that they have to do every single question. I will show you how to grade it, and I'll give you a couple of options. This will take 2 or 3 videos easily to go through all of the things that Google Forms can do. So I'm going to do the type that I tend to do most often in the classroom. So in order to do that, what you need to have is go into your Google Drive, which is just drive.google.com. And if you don't have a Google account, no problem. It's totally free, so just set this up. In order for your students to see this, you also have to have a Google account, but again, it's totally free. All right, then click on the New button. Click on More, there's Google Forms, and I'm going to start with a blank form. Okay, what will pop up is this, and I'm just going to give it a title, so I'm just going to call this Sample for Video, right? All right, and now I tend to just give an introduction. All right, so whatever the title of your topic is, okay, this is what you're going to do. All right, then you can do a couple of things here. You can add some photos by simply clicking Add an Image. If you've got something from your computer, just upload it. If you want to search, this will go through images that can be used without copyright. So let's see, I'll add a simple image here. Okay. You can title the image, but we're going to talk about questions and how to separate out questions. Now, I tend to do my questions, okay, in multiple formats. I'm going to delete this question. There is just a delete here. You can create multiple screens. So in other words, what that means is that once they've finished the very first screen, and I'll show you in the view mode in a second, they have to complete everything on that particular screen in order to move forward, okay, with the assignment. And they cannot move on to the next screen until they have completed the one prior. All right, and the reason I kind of love this sort of approach to the activity is that I start with the simple stuff on the first screen, and I work the students up to much more difficult sort of assignments. So I'm just going to do the welcome to your assignment as the first screen, and I'm going to create a different section. And you do that by just clicking the equal signs, and you will see now it's created section number 2. So we're going to do our first screen is single digit addition. Okay, now there's no questions here. You'll see, well, what the heck, it's not a question, it's just sort of an intro. You can add the question simply by clicking the plus button, add the question. Okay, I want to do a short answer. So I'm going to show you how to do short answer first, and then we'll come into some of these other options later. But I'm going to do a short answer. So we're going to do something very simple just so you can see what the point is. Okay, and I do want to require this question, meaning if I click this button, the student cannot move on to your next section, so section 3, until this question is answered. Okay, so I'm going to require it. If you do not click that, keep in mind, right, that they could submit an answer. It doesn't have to be correct for them to move on. Okay, or they don't have to submit an answer at all. Okay, in addition, I'm going to make sure that response validation is checked. It may or may not be checked, okay, initially. All right, and this is where you can sort of put in, okay, what you're looking for. So you can choose a number, a text, a length, a regular expression. I'm going to make this text just because I think it makes more sense, and I'm going to put the number 4 there. And then make sure you fill in this little section that says custom error text. Otherwise, it will just show them the answer if they put something incorrect in. So you want to make sure that there's something there that they see that. Okay. I'm going to add a second question, and I want it to be on the same screen. So I'm going to add the plus sign. I'm going to, again, make sure it's short answer. I want to make sure it's required. And you can see that once it's required, it gets this little red star after it, so you know that you've done it. and I want to have response validation. And I'm going to do a text just so you can see. Okay. All right, so in this case, I want a text validation. Now, this is case sensitive, okay? So, oftentimes, if the students are not as familiar with this, I will go in and I will add a description, and I will write something like, put your answer in all caps. Okay, because if they put it in lowercase, that's probably a correct answer. Unfortunately, it just will not allow them to move forward. And again, I'm going to add some. Okay, I just want the 2 questions on this particular screen, so I'm going to create a new section. Okay, let's take a look as to what this looks like so far. Okay, so you can see that once the students view this, all they see from their first section is just their introduction and a button that says next, and they should easily be able to move on. Okay, so again, what is 2 plus 2? You should be able to plug in an answer. If, however, the answer is incorrect, it will give you that incorrect try again. Okay, and unfortunately, until both answers are correct, you're not going to be able to move forward. They can move backwards, they can't move forward. Okay, unfortunately, if they put the answer in lowercase, okay, it doesn't work. So just make sure that they know to put all the answers in caps. But until both answers on this page are correct, they cannot move on to the next section. All right, you can do as many sections as you like. Okay, you can do, I tend to scaffold the activities, meaning the initial sections tend to be pretty simple, straightforward questions. Additional sections tend to become much more difficult. So the further they progress through the assignment, okay, the harder it becomes. My other suggestion is to stick similar types of questions in the section, right? I mean, if you're going to do basic math, do some single digits on one section. Double digits, right? Triple digits, subtraction, right? More complex, or fractions, or decimal points, right? So to keep similar questions in the section before they complete the end. Okay. Because I don't do this in Google Classroom, we don't have that enabled in our school, I will create an end section that collects the names. In addition, I also allow for a lot of teamwork, okay, in my classroom, so teams will be allowed to play, and this will allow all teammates to put their names in, okay, at the end. So I will simply just write something like, put in the names of your teammates. Okay, in order to do that, you also have to add a question. And in this case, instead of short answer, I want a paragraph answer. I do make it required so they can't complete until it's done. But there really doesn't need to be response validation, right? I mean, you're not looking for one particular answer here. There's not just one answer. Okay, so that this time when we take a peek at it, I'm going to give you a correct answer. Okay, you will see that this is required. They're not done, but okay, this is what you will see as far as submissions. They can go back and then repeat the activity. So now what happens is when you're back on your screen, you can see that there is a response. You'll be able to see the answers. Okay, in addition to at the end, I will know which teams have completed, okay, the assignment. So this is one way to use Google Forms. Okay, let me show you a slightly different option so that you can grade on Google Forms, okay, instead of requiring this to the end. Now, because I required correct answers to move on and to get to the last question, I know that if they place their name in that last question section, they must have gotten 100% because they got every single answer right. And philosophically, I like this because this forces the students to get every question right. And I'm okay with giving the students 100 for this assignment because that is my end goal. I want to make sure that they know all the terminology if I'm doing definitions instead of math, right? I'll give them a definition, they have to tell me the word, okay? Do I want them to understand different problems? But I force them to get 100% in order to make it to the last question. This is a boost to the student morale because they get 100%, right? And it's a win for me because they have learned every single piece that I've wanted them to learn. However, on occasion, you may want to use this as a quiz, okay, type option as opposed to, right, making sure that they've got all of the key aspects. So let me show you how to attach grades, okay, as opposed to only being able to get the answers 100% correct. Okay, so in order to do that, you're going to click this little settings button. And under quizzes, I'm going to click on make this a quiz. And of course, you can either do immediate after each submission or later upon manual review. This will depend on the type of questions you're asking. Certainly if you're asking for open-ended quiz style, you'll have to do this later. If there's straight answers like me, I teach science, right? I mean, the answer is a red blood cell, a white blood cell, a platelet. I can just do immediately after each submission. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that, right, that those quizzes are turned on. Okay, then it gives you an option to allow for an answer key. Okay, so you can assign 1 point, 2 points, 4 points, right? Okay, and you will see up here at the top that your total points, okay, is being added. Okay, so you can make different things worth different points, different percentages. However, if you're going to do this, I would take off the required or take off the response validation, right? You can make it required without having response validation. So let's take off the response validation. I'm going to give a couple of, I'm going to make each of these worth 5 points. Okay, so that the total points is worth 10. I have taken off response validation, okay, on these. And now let's take a look at what this assignment looks like. Okay, so now, oops, sorry, I guess I did not take off my requireds. Okay, for this component. All right. Okay. So now let's say, oh goodness, what is this answer? And they're going to put in 5. Okay, click next. For some reason, I didn't take off. Okay. You will see that there are some auto grade, okay, options. There is a view score. Okay, so you can see that you've got no points because, right, incorrect. I didn't capitalize, okay, but you can certainly go back as an instructor later to re-add those points. Okay, so keep in mind there is an option in order to create scoring for this, okay, as you go through. Okay, so let me just edit the question. I could make this less required or take off response validation, right? This way they don't have to answer the question. Okay. Okay. Right, so that you get a nice accurate score. All right, hope this first introduction, okay, was simple enough to understand how I tend to use short answer paragraph with or without response validation and how to add, right, a graded component to this. All right, so some of my future ones are going to focus on some other things, right? More digital locks. We'll talk about multiple choice and how you can sort of move forward with multiple choice. There's a lot of fun and interesting things you can do with that. All right, thank you for watching.